I am more convinced than ever that over the next 5 to 7 months with high prices and high rates, that it's going to be the investors who do the work. And more importantly, understand the tools in your tool bag to get deals done. I think one of those tools that has been brought to us by Velocity Mortgage and has been used by some, but really needs to be used or at least understood by many, is what is called the 90% CLTV loan. It's how you can get into the deal for 10% down, and you're going to need some owner carry. Before we talk about this in more detail, let's welcome Stephen Dow to the show and do that marketing spiel so we don't get in trouble.
Thought you might have forgotten because I know you were going into your to your pitch there. Anyway, as far as the beginning of the our typical videos, although I work very happily, as you can see behind me, for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel that are of my own, excuse me. So let's get it going.
Yeah. So again, one of the things that I see going forward, much like last Q4, was the market slows down, buyers retreat, but some sellers have to sell. Now, last year on my channel, I documented getting 2 deals 30% below list. We will talk more about those in the next video because I should have used you for the flip for paying cash. More on that in the second video. But I think there's a lot of people that are going to be able to get into deals with 10% down because of the CLTV loan. Not all sellers can say yes to it. Let me be very, very clear. But it is a, like when you look at your tool, like when I look at my tool belt today as an investor, this 90%, loan is like, I don't know, it's a hammer. It's a big tool because when it works, it allows me to get below market rate interest rates. It allows me to get them for max leverage, and it allows me to get a deal done with the seller where I can overpay. And it's really a win-win. So let's talk about what it is, how you use it, and all that good stuff.
Well, 90% CLTV, or combined loan to value, is what that acronym stands for. It just represents the percentage of financing that you're going to be able to get as far as against the purchase price of the property. So in this instance, let's just say ideally, if we could do what's called a 50-40-10 type of loan setup, to where Velocity would provide the loan at 50% loan to value of the purchase price. And in this case, the seller would carry up to 40% of the second. And then buyer can just put the remaining 10% down. So that, again, allows for a buyer to only have to put the remaining 10% down. But in some cases, if in certain situations, either buyer can't put any more down or whatever the circumstances are, or ideally just so it'll cash flow, but the seller gets their price and the buyer gets their terms, everybody wins. And so, I mean, I think we talked about it last week, specifically retail property, Indianapolis, Indiana, was able to close. Like Small Pocket wasn't getting a lot of movement on that property, couldn't get any, comps. Every other lender that every other previous escrows had tried to get financing fell out because same situation, no comps. We were comfortable at 50%, and that 90% CLTV option allowed for this thing to close where no one else could provide this financing.
Well, let's talk about some things we've talked about before, but there's a lot of new viewers. A lot of people got to pick up this tool, AKA Hammer, because it's going to allow some great deals to get done. We call it the 50-40-10 for a couple of reasons. Why the 50? Well, it gives you the best rates. Right. If you do a 70% first and a 20% second and a 10% down, it's still a 90% CLTV. You just don't get the best rates. Hence, we called it 50-40-10. But I want to be clear. You could do a 40-50-10.
Oh, yeah.
Get the best rates and actually lower the blended rate. Because, again, Velocity is going to be the high rate in this story.
Right.
The seller is going to be the low rate in this story. And that's how you calculate the blended rate.
Agreed. So I think it's just, again, a great tool. You call it Hammer. I think more of it like a Swiss Army knife, right? Because you have to kind of fit it in.
I want it to be big, not just this little dinky thing.
All right, a really big Swiss Army knife. You know what I'm saying? A big like magnifying glass and a big pair of scissors or whatever. Anyway, it just kind of allows for, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you can kind of fit in with the overall transaction to make sure that it's a win-win on both parties. Because again, if you could structure in a way where, like you said, ideally, if the seller was going to be willing to maybe carry 100% seller financing, but it maybe at a higher rate, you're like, well, hey, maybe you can meet me halfway. Maybe I'll give you a good chunk of your money now, but you can give me better terms. And so
Right.
then it'll allow me to cash flow. It'll give you more of the chunk of money now. It's kind of like a win-win. So it just depends on the overall circumstances. So I think it just allows for the ability to negotiate, and create terms. I mean, it's just kind of like out of thin air almost. You could just say, hey, well, we could do it this way or that way, just move the needle a little bit and kind of fit in whatever
Yeah.
the numbers make sense. Yeah.
When you understand the power of the CLTV loan, you do three powerful things.
Mm-hmm.
One, you can structure the deal to get below market interest rates. It's called the blended rate. Velocity is going to charge what you're going to charge. The seller is going to give you, ideally in this story, below market interest rate. Hence, the blended rate will be in the 5s or 6s, depending on what you negotiate. So one,
Right.
you're going to get a below market interest rate. Two, you're going to get into a deal. And I personally look forward to doing this on an apartment building. There's going to be some seller who has one, or ideally, I'm putting this out in the universe because I hope to do this again. I want to buy multiple buildings from one seller with a 90% CLTV loan because they're going to get some walkaway money, right? They're going to get some cash, right? They're not going to get all the cash because that's a problem, taxes, depreciation, all of that, but they're going to get
Right.
some. And then more importantly, by creating a win-win, I could overpay, right?
Right.
I happen to be in a position where I could pay cash for a lot of things if I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to be a cheap son of a gun because you're not getting my cash for me easily.
Right.
But you give me some terms, you carry 40, 50%, you allow me to structure a deal where I get below market interest rate with only 10% down, max leverage, and max cash flow. Let's go. So I look forward to deploying this on something bigger than the average bear. So it's going to be
Well,
fun.
yeah, one of the three amigos has already applied
Yeah.
this particular product, and it works like. And in that situation, it was kind of like more unique because the owners were in distress in a
Right.
situation where I think credit wise they weren't going to be able to get financing terms that was going to be a feasible situation because they didn't want to move. They wanted to keep the property, but then one of the three amigos bought the property from them, rented back to them,
Yeah.
and then gave them cash as far as passive income. It's like, oh my gosh, he's cash flowing.
Yeah.
And it was just
They're
a perfect
big.
like symbiote. Like it was just like, well, yeah, it just worked out beautifully. So just depending upon the situation, again, Swiss Army knife. I mean, in that situation, who would have thought like something that this could apply? But it was like, it just makes sense with everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really powerful once you can kind of like understand where in so many different scenarios, just where other lenders may be lacking, or other situations that would require creative financing. This really kind of allows you to kind of, yeah, wiggle
Yeah.
around
Play
and
together.
see
Yeah.
what works. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about fix and flip next because, again, I think we're going to repeat Q4 of last year. We'll talk about two deals that I did one way that I could have very easily done a different way and seen a much bigger return. But before we do that, if somebody wanted to call you and break down the 90% CLTV loan, how should they do that?
Email is going to be the best. SDAO@velocitymortgage.com. Please put in the subject line the acronym ORAAT to make it past the firewall. Body the email, brief description, what you're looking for. Property address would be great. At least city and state to make sure I lend there. Your mid FICO score is also helpful. Best phone number to reach you at, and typically 24, 48 hours, I'll be in touch.
Thank you, buddy. I
Unless I'm at a
appreciate you.
mortgage conference and there's no Wi-Fi on the floor, and everyone's like, "Why are you not calling me back?" And I'm like, "I can't even." Anyway, that's the only time. But yeah,
Cool.
99% of the time I'm around.
There you go.